welcome everybody to the recap show for the HRO Sports Betting Podcast. Once again, another good week, T. Another good week. Keep racking up those W's and those wins in the units, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. But once again, making money and cashing tickets at the window, and that's what it's all about. First game that we're going to talk about this week is that BYU Notre Dame stinker that we both sat through at Allegiant. That wasn't a stinker. Right. I don't like fun. Notre Dame. So, yeah, Allegiant Stadium, quality stadium. Shout out to Allegiant Stadium. Yeah. They do a nice job. We had some good seats. They do a nice job there at Allegiant. Definitely one of the better football stadiums that I've ever been in.
Same.
So, with that being said, it was Notre Dame played well. I mean, that was my impression of it all. They were the better team. BYU, I still love the way they play. They're a physical team, but Notre Dame came out with something to prove in this game. They just flat out wanted it more, I thought. What were your thoughts on it, T?
I mean, BYU jumped them. Or not BYU, I'm sorry. Notre Dame jumped them. And then BYU had a nice comeback. So it didn't get too out of hand. Ended up being one score, 8-point game. As far as the betting side, I made BYU slight favorite that we had mentioned this. So we sprinkled a little bit on the BYU money. Just
something to do.
Yeah, just a little bit of money since we were going to be there to have some interest added to it. I mean, Jaron Hall kind of struggled a little bit. The quarterback for BYU, he didn't have a particularly great game. And BYU offensively in general just didn't. They didn't have a lot of total yards. Where Notre Dame was pushing 500 on.
Yeah, Notre Dame I thought just wanted it more.
They were a better team.
In their stuff.
They were better.
They were better on that night, no doubt about it. In the bonus play that we had in week 6. We told you bet the under in Iowa. We got 2 units on that one, baby.
Yeah.
Iowa. Kirk Ferentz, keep letting your son call the plays. That's all I got to say. Just keep them going.
An ATM machine right
I love it. I love it. There's a couple teams like this. Iowa gets the most publicity.
Yeah.
There are a couple teams out there like Iowa, but funny thing is, Iowa just keeps racking it up, and they don't play this week.
That game was so bad to watch.
Oh gosh. Oh my God, Illinois, they're killing me. How come you couldn't look like that, Illinois against Wisconsin the week before? That was pathetic.
Yeah,
oh my God, you go back to being Burt Bielema. And oh, by the way, I'm like Minnesota, but we aren't going to talk about that.
Yeah, we're not going to talk, but have that game.
Anyhow, thank you, Iowa. And when you're up next, it's Ohio State. I might be tempted to take the over because I don't think they're going to stop them. We'll see where that number is when we get that far. But anyhow, we'll move on to the next game.
Easy money.
Where it was FSU at North Carolina State. Once again, we had no play on this one. And, North Carolina State, I really like the team. This game was a lot uglier than I thought it was going to be. I thought North Carolina State might make this a little bit more of a laugher. They didn't. But they won the game. Give credit to North Carolina State on that one. They won the game. What were your impressions on this one?
I mean, North Carolina State couldn't stop Florida State from running the ball.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and Florida State is no chump. I mean, top 25 team. Beat LSU early on. Too many turnovers. That's kind of what, in my opinion, decided this one. And really, it was a sloppy game. This is one of the games we put on a side TV and just it was there and kind of glancing at it, but too many penalties. Overall, it just wasn't a great football game, at least in terms of my eyes. But I also didn't have any money on it. Had I had the under, I would have thought this was one of the best games I've ever watched. But that's just the life of being a sports fan.
Next game that we want to talk about here on the HRO recap show is TCU was -7 at Kansas. This game pushed. I know you're going to talk a little bit more about this one in a moment, but the Lance Leopold Love Fest there in Kansas, I think it's still going to be ongoing. They made a valiant effort out of the game, but TCU's for real. I think TCU, now that Ewers is back for Texas and TCU, I think that's really the class of the Big 12 this year.
And we'll see
some people might talk a little differently, about a couple other teams that are there, but in my eyes, how I have them ranked, those are my top 2 teams. Congratulations, TCU. But it was a push. It was a push on that final number. What are your thoughts on it, though, T?
Well, before I break that down, I just want to shout out Jason Bean. I mean, coming in backup quarterback for Kansas and just going off. I mean, when Daniels went down, it's like, oh, shoot, there goes Kansas's year. I mean, it was that Cinderella story, and then you lose your starting quarterback, and it's like, well, dang. And then Bean came in and threw for 262 and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, and really, the second half of this game was one of the better halves I've watched of football.
Yeah.
I mean, in the third quarter, each team scored like 21 points. Nobody could stop anybody. It was just fireworks.
Good action.
But as you mentioned, and this is something that I want to stress a little bit, this game ended up a push or even loss, depending on your number you got. Some places this game got to 7.5.
Yeah.
It also, this game closed at 70.5, so went under on the closing number. I can't stress this enough. If you guys are paying somebody for picks and they're giving those picks out on the day of the game, on Saturday morning, or even late Friday night, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear the term like scam decapper all over the place.
Yeah.
Like, can some people make money? Sure. But your percentages, and especially in this world, are so small from winning good money to losing money.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it's you're not getting a good number. This game opened TCU -5.
Yep.
Now I made this game 6.5, so it wasn't a play for me.
Yeah.
So when that starts moving up and ends up getting to 7, and just scrolling through Twitter and seeing all these people, well, sometimes it's a good push, but it's not a good push.
No.
When the line opens 5.
Yep.
And you get 7, and you lose 2 points of value on that.
And a key number.
There is no good push in that. You're just fooling yourselves.
No.
Go ahead.
I mean, when you get that key number that it pushes up to or goes through, that is an indicator that sometimes you just want to stay away. You know, sometimes you just want to understand that the value is now gone out of the bet, and you want to then stay away from that bet. You know, yes, it ended up a push, but if you look at the long haul, and that's what I like to do, I like to look at the long haul. If you're too focused on the 1 week and just have that micro view of your sports betting, you're really going to hurt yourself, and you aren't going to be able to manage your bankroll very well. And to me, this push, in my humble opinion, because you don't get that line right away, how I look at it, it's an opportunity cost on you, and you lost a unit because you should have won this game.
Yeah.
You know, so technically you didn't lose any money, but in my humble opinion, you lost a unit on this because you didn't get that extra dollar in your pocket. You weren't cashing the ticket at the window. You were getting your money back at the window.
And just some numbers to kind of back that up. If you look at the openers, like games that would have moved in the 3 points or more, is what the stat here is.
Okay.
This game was 2, but with the closing line,
No.
you'd be 103, 112, and 2 for 48%.
That
Okay.
loses.
You lose a lot of money. On the contrary, if you bet that early, before those games moved 3 points, you're 137, 78, and 2 for 64%.
You're making a boatload of money.
That's the difference.
Boatload. You own the boat of that boatload of money too.
That's
you'll
the
make
difference
money in
between
this.
betting something early and being a handicapper versus paying somebody for picks, getting them the day of Saturday morning, waking up early before out here it's a 9 a.m. kickoff, and getting all the plays in at 8 a.m.
You're running
over
around
app.
the casinos or
doing
them
it
in
on the
app.
apps.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
And what people fail to realize is those people that you're paying for picks, chances are
Oh, they got them in.
they've
early.
already got the pick.
They got a good number.
Yeah.
Guarantee it. Guarantee it.
They are. And sometimes you get different plays, and if it's not the same number, well, that's because they probably got it early.
Yeah.
And this is just a perfect example of that. I mean, this game opened TCU -5, over under 59.5.
No.
An easy over because of the second half.
Easy over.
And TCU covers.
Yeah.
Instead, you either pushed or potentially lost on TCU,
Yeah.
and the game goes under.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
So, yeah. With that, we didn't have a play on that one, but just wanted to bring that up as a great example on have faith in what you're doing, try and get that good number as soon as possible, and then watch the games.
And true handicappers, if real sports bettors are getting stuff early, they're getting stuff. I mean, like one thing that we do that we haven't even talked about is a lot of these games of the year come out over the summer.
Yes.
We start betting them then.
Yeah.
Because you can get a line.
You get great lines there.
Yeah. And then because stuff changes, you could get a completely different number.
And maybe and then other ways it could change for you and you could middle, just like in that past game. One of the things that we talked about actually was we didn't see the number at 59.5, but we were talking about trying to middle that, and that was a perfect example. Had we got the over early, it got to 70, which is through a key number. We might have bet the under on that.
Or you can get off something.
Got it middle.
I mean,
or you can get off of it.
Like one of the bets we had was we took Texas A&M plus I think it was 17 over the summer for the game of the year. It went up to 20 because Texas A&M's looked bad, and I loved Alabama, and we had that Alabama ticket.
Yeah.
But instead of us losing just one unit on it, we end up only losing the juice because we had Texas A&M, and they covered that game of the year number that we got over the summer, but lost the one now.
Yeah,
but
just because we wanted to get off, and I mean,
because Texas A&M
it worked. It worked in our favor. I mean, we got a little lucky on that one, but it worked in our favor.
Yeah, because we didn't have that middle opportunity, but I just wanted off that.
Yeah, it just didn't feel right. And I agreed with you. Now, moving on to Tennessee at LSU. Tennessee was minus 2.5. It was the 64.5. It ended up 63.5 as the over/under. Tennessee wins this one in a laugher. LSU for me, this is a perfect example of a continuity of a team and trying to execute your system. Also, this is where your own scheduler can do you in. LSU is phenomenal at night. There is something to Death Valley after dark.
Yeah, it's like 18% of
Death
win
Valley,
like 18% more of their games if
Death
it's a night
Valley
game
during the
morning.
day, just an average place to play on the road. Tennessee catches a break there. They are the much better team. Athlete to athlete, LSU's got some athletes, folks.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. They've got some athletes. However, they aren't playing that cohesive style of ball. I think Tennessee, once again, just wanted it more. And kudos to Tennessee for not looking ahead to Alabama the next week. I mean, I really thought that might be a problem as well. It wasn't. And congrats to Tennessee. How'd you see this one, T?
So as far as the spread goes, I made this Tennessee just a slight favorite. So the number kind of moved towards me. It wasn't a play. And I didn't jump LSU plus the points early on at home. We did give out the under on this game. We got this game a little earlier. I think we had 66.5.
Yeah.
Game closed 63.5. Again, this one didn't matter. The game, it was easy under.
Yeah.
Tennessee looked for real on both sides of the football. And I'm really looking forward to the Tennessee-Alabama matchup this week. I think that'll be a good one. To see if Tennessee truly is the real deal. So we'll see what
we'll be covering that one as well.
Yeah.
Moving right along, then the next game, the game that Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher versus Alabama and Nick Saban and all the rhetoric that was going on in the preseason and over the summer, and my gosh, Texas A&M almost did it. I mean,
because of Milroe.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the door was open. Bryce Young didn't play. I mean, let's be honest. It's a different ball game, completely different game. We'll talk about two quarterbacks here. Next two teams that have quarterbacks. We're going to talk about Alabama with Bryce Young. I just think they're a top 3 team in the nation.
Yes.
Without them, watching the backup play Milroe.
Yeah, Jalen Milroe.
Jalen Milroe. He might be a nice player in the future. He's not what they need to keep him in that upper echelon. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. I'm just saying he's not elite. He's not in that C.J. Stroud, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young category. And because of that, and rightfully so, but because of that, Alabama just goes down a little bit as long as that young man's playing in the game. But to Alabama's credit, they won the game. And what were your thoughts on that one?
So I'd bet this game Alabama minus 20, as we kind of mentioned a little earlier. Mainly trying to get off of the A&M bet. I made this game 27.
Yeah.
I didn't think there'd be quite as big of a drop off with Milroe with Bryce Young. There was. I mean, you can't turn the ball over, especially in the SEC.
Yeah.
You can't. I talked about the team total for A&M in our preview video. Yeah. It came in too low, so that was not a play for us.
Not a play.
Which is good because that game would have ended up, they would have went over that total. I think we said like anything under 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That, to be completely honest, they probably should have been under 2 touchdowns anyway. I mean, their first touchdown was off a turnover. They were given a 30-yard field.
Yeah.
Their second touchdown was off of another turnover. They were given a 49-yard field.
Yep.
So 2 turnovers resulted in the 2 touchdowns for A&M. That they got the ball on Alabama's side of the field both times. And then their third score, the field goal they got, was off of another turnover.
Yeah.
I mean, Texas A&M wins the turnover battle 4-1 and only comes out with 20 points and loses.
And that shows you right there. That's why, folks, when you hear some handicappers or you hear some analysts, and you can tell all they do is watch the box score. They aren't looking at the games. They aren't watching the games. They aren't putting the time in that T puts in to this to really understand each team and really give you some good insight. And that goes to show you right there. You win a turnover battle, 4-1, and lose the game, you're the worst team. I mean, I hate it when people say, well, I was on the right side of that bet and I lost. That's like moral victories when I was coaching for the real thing. Yeah, I love playing teams that got a lot of moral victories. That means I won.
Yeah, right.
And, you can be on the right side of the bet. I thought Alabama's a better team, but when you're turning it over, giving teams short fields, that's all part of the game too. And you just can't have that over the long run. You always talk to me about handicappers. You can't predict turnovers, but you can see when one guy's a turnover machine. And he's just going to cost you. In the long run, he's going to cost you. But
I mean, they weren't all his fault.
No.
Blindside, strip sack type stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, Gibbs runs for 150 on the ground. And he needs to continue to be a huge focal point in this Alabama team, whether Bryce Young is in or not, because these wide receivers are still younger and need to get some more experience.
Agreed.
But yeah, I mean, A&M, you're not going to... If you're winning turnover battles by that much, and you force 4 turnovers and lose, that you're...
One last thing. All you A&M boosters that are paying those big money for the NILs, send that big money my way. I'll give you an NIL, and you'll get a better return on your investment.
Right.
So, moving on, let's go on to that Texas-Oklahoma game. Oh, my gosh.
Was it a game? I didn't know Oklahoma showed up.
I'll be the first to admit it. I have given Texas a hard time. I have put them on my do not bet list at different times. They are up and down. They're inconsistent. They've had a little bit of that this year. I will say this, when that Ewers, when that young man is playing quarterback for him, they're good. They're good. He just
looks different.
He is one of those special quarterbacks, and I'm going to tell you, Arch Manning's going to have a heck of a time cracking by this guy.
He'll be gone. He'll be in the NFL by the time Arch gets there.
Arch is there next year, and Ewers will have a year left. They'll be together for a year. Ewers look good. I mean, Arch, you're going to have to do a little work and not rely completely on the name, because this kid's playing some football. Yeah, coming back.
And they'll probably go with Arch.
Yeah, well, I tell you what.
They just,
this kid,
wise, they can't afford to lose him in the transfer portal.
Well, I'm telling you right now, this Ewers kid can play.
He's good.
He is legitimately good. So with that, Oklahoma, you got the RIP hanging over your tombstone there already.
I wonder if they're still thinking that their head coach is better than Lincoln Riley.
I don't think so.
That they had an upgrade at coach.
So, all that being said, Texas looks good. Oklahoma does it. That's my lean on it. T, what do you got to say?
Yeah, I mean, I made this game Texas minus 1.5. It ended up being no play just because, and I mentioned it in the video, I was worried about my numbers not quite being caught up to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the biggest blowout in Oklahoma-Texas history.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a game. It was never a game.
No. No, it really wasn't.
They had 39 passing yards. 39!
Yeah.
And lost by 49.
Yeah.
39 passing yards for a game.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just...
I don't know if I've ever seen that
Yeah.
from, like, an Oklahoma team.
in Oklahoma,
This
a
wasn't,
recent Oklahoma.
this wasn't Florida International going to play Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean, this is Oklahoma, Texas, and
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, they look bad. They lost a couple weeks ago, and it's just been completely
Yeah.
downhill ever since.
oh, yeah.
Um,
The psyche, and this is what can happen, and you really got to watch this as a handicapper, and I knew it as a coach. You know, when you're relying on those four pillars to win ball games, and two of those pillars are that motivation, that desire to win the game, and that the other pillar being execution. And when you lose your team, when
Yeah,
your
I mean,
team
the
is
wheels fell
when your
off.
team is not focused anymore, and you lose them, you lose those two pillars. I don't care how much skill you got. I don't care how much athleticism you got. If you can't execute and you don't have that determination more than your opponent, that desire, that will to win, boy, you're in trouble.
and they're going to lose people to the transfer portal.
Yeah,
like, Oklahoma could be in some trouble. I know they've got talent coming in, but
Yeah,
the
tough.
coaches lost the locker room, which means the kids that are there could potentially look at transferring.
Yeah, yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good for a traditionally, just great program. This could be not only this season, but this could be multiple seasons where you're gonna need to find somebody special.
They got to
and
get a
coach
quarterback.
and turn that
I mean,
around.
they just-
Well, yeah, and I mean that's all part of it. When was the last time you said that Oklahoma had to go find a quarterback? I mean, they've always had somebody that's a stud, and just brought him in. So, that being said, congratulations, Texas. You earned that one.
Yeah, it's a
you've
shame
earned
that they've
you've
got
earned
two
my
losses.
you've earned my respect. You're definitely. And right now, I'm going to upgrade them into the top 15, if not the top 10. They're good, and they're going to be good. I don't
I've
know
got 'em
where
12.
you've got them. Yeah, you got them 12. We're thinking pretty similar there. So, with that, on to the last game where I had the lean, and boy, and we had a play on this one, and I was not a Chip Kelly and a UCLA believer, and DTR I thought was going to be MIA in this one, but he was not. And
Got me again.
UCLA, you not only got me once, you've got me twice. So
I'm not gonna
fool
make the
me once,
mistake a third
shame on
time.
you. Fool me
Yep.
twice, shame on this guy right
Yeah,
here.
I haven't
It's
caught up enough to
Shame
UCLA.
on me. I apologize to all you folks for for giving this lean and talking up Utah. And I still like Utah. I think they're a good team. UCLA was a force to be reckoned with. They had the determination. They had the execution. Man, they just anytime Utah made a little run at them, UCLA had the answer.
Yep.
That was impressive. That was an impressive win as I've seen from start to finish out of a UCLA team. And gosh, I can't even tell you how long. So congrats to Chip Kelly and the job they're doing out there in DTR. You're a dark horse candidate for the Heisman. Congrats. That's all I can say to Utah. I think they're going to be a tough out. I still think they're going to be a tough out.
Yeah, Utah's solid.
They're good. They're a good team. So with that, how'd you see it, T?
I made this game 9, as you mentioned. I bet Utah at 3. The game kind of moved and then got bet back down. Yeah, I mean, the Utah defense couldn't get a stop.
Couldn't get off the field.
DTR was, he threw for 4 touchdowns. His interception was at the very end of the game. He threw that pick 6 that
made it closer.
The game was around the 1 score in the second half there, but Rising, most of his numbers came late.
Yeah.
Utah didn't do a lot offensively early on. It was just Yeah, and
Then
it got me again.
Yeah, it was. We handed out a stinker, and one of the things about us is we're pretty transparent. We're going to tell you when we have a stinker out there, and that was one of them. But I tell you what, our overall record, it speaks for itself. And T, you might want to talk a little bit more about that right now.
Just looking at it, and just not talking about other stuff that we've had or
just what we talk about here.
Just specific plays that we've given out in our videos. Are sitting at 17-9 right now on the year for 65.38%. If you know anything about handicapping, 65 is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Now, granted, smaller sample size because again, we're not talking about every play that we're making in the videos because we're kind of picking specific games. But $100 better is up over $700, and we even had the little cold stretch. Week 4 we were 0-3. Yep. Week 5 we went 2-2.
Yeah.
And lost the juice that week, and then bounced back this week with a 3-2 in plays we gave out. So like I said, overall at 17-9, I couldn't be happier.
Yeah. And just as an example, why don't you give out, if you're $100 better out there, $100 better, that means you're up over $710.
Yeah.
And if you're $1,000 better, you're up $7,100. And see, that's why you got to look at the big picture. Mm-hmm. You can't just take the microcosm of the week and go, oh my God, the sky is falling. Or you can't bet too much of your bankroll in 1 week and you're so depleted. You've got to take the big overall view. You got to know that this is a heartbeat. I tell people all the time, you're going to be up, you're going to be down. You just want to raise that ceiling, that position where you go down to, as far up as you can, and the sky's the limit on the other side. And as long as you're trending upward, life's going to be good for you. So with that, congratulations to all of you who got to the window with us. It's always fun cashing those tickets. And we want to thank everybody for watching the HRO Sports Betting Podcast Recap Show. Boy, that's a mouthful for Week 6. And we'll see you at the window. Take care.